Learning English is somewhat of a difficult thing to do. It, there's many reasons. It's many ways a complex language, but I won't get into that right now. I want to talk about the process of learning English. Now, we have learned in the past of learning to read and to write, to uh, learn words by sight. In other words, we present a word and say dog, and this is how you say that word. It means this, and then you're supposed to remember the next time you see that word that the word is dog and what it means. But research has shown that this has a very limited uh, result. That as a result of teaching children this way, uh, many people have problems of reading and getting information from a written word. Some of the estimates are that in America, where it is our language, that 1/3 of the people are what they call functional illiterates. Uh, they cannot really read and write. They cannot read and gather information from what they read. Most of them can speak, but reading is a particular problem, and that is one of the problems I attack in my method of teaching. Now, if you listen to this film that follows, she will point out the way that there is a natural way of learning language. Taking as example, children, after being born, of course, begin to learn a language and how they learn a language. Well, first, they experiment with sounds, then they select the sounds that are part of their language, and then they put that sounds together as a word, and they begin to able to speak simple sentences. And then as they grow older, they put it together as more complex sentences. This is a natural way of learning a language. The other way that's normally taught in schools, especially language schools, is the old rote memorize words on sight reading. I have changed my way of teaching. I start with sounds. I moved sounds to words, and then the words to sentences. So when you are speaking English, you're speaking it clearly, and as any American speaking, no accent is necessary. No accent is a result of this. So watch this video. She will verify what I'm saying, and you will have a better understanding of how to learn a language.
The foundations for reading, phonemic awareness, and phonograms. As we begin, it's important that we understand the steps to learning how to read. These begin with phonemic awareness and the learning of the phonograms. However, before we examine those steps, I want to go back even farther and discover, how do students learn to speak, or how do children learn to speak? Let's examine for a moment oral language development. Did you know that babies, when they are babbling, babble all the sounds in all the known languages in the world? So some of those strange sounds may be sounds in another language. However, as they babble, they're also listening, and they listen to the sounds that are being spoken around them. And they then begin to narrow their babble down to the sounds of the language that they are hearing. So please note, babies begin to learn to speak with sounds. They then begin to combine those sounds into short words, such as ma and pa or me. And then they begin to combine those words into short sentences, or to develop some two-syllable words, more juice, me cup. And slowly they begin to build those words into sentences and longer and more complex words. They do not go from not saying anything to speaking in sentences overnight. They're very, very systematic about how they learn to speak. Now, they do this innately, by the way. The human brain is just wired to learn how to speak. By the time a child gets to kindergarten or to school, those students are focused on words. They're no longer focused on sounds. They're focused on finding out the names for everything in their environment and for developing more vocabulary. Many of these students are still missing some of the speech sounds. They might be missing the l sound or the th sound. And that's very normal. And many of those kids you'll probably have observed are not even really interested in those sounds, because what they're interested in at this stage is really the words and acquiring those words.